Hey, what's going on? It's Dr. Ben Glass again. I'm a chiropractor. This is the Pre-Chiro podcast, where we're just aiming to build context for you on this path of becoming a chiropractor. Today, we have Dr. Wade Port out in Georgia, the director of MLS seminars, something that is close to my foundation, my heart, really shifted my consciousness and was instrumental in me becoming the chiropractor I am today. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Dr. Wade, can we get started by you just sharing what that transition was like from you deciding that you wanted to become a chiropractor to you entering chiropractic school, some challenges you faced, maybe some surprises, and what that experience was like? Where were you at in life?
Whew. Well, I did not grow up. I'm from Marietta, Georgia. In my opinion, the mecca of chiropractic, just simply because it's home to the largest chiropractic university in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, I didn't grow up knowing what chiropractic was, and I was exposed when I was a teenager. So it's about 17, and my life was radically altered by being exposed to a chiropractor, and she invited me to get adjusted, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
And before then, I was already, let's just say, on a consciousness expanding journey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole, the major premise was not new to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had an experiential understanding of the premise without ever knowing what chiropractic was and the formal organization of that. So I think that's important. My pump was primed. And
Mm-hmm.
so this kind of dripped into my life and into my world and consciousness at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And by the first, second, or third time I went to get checked, get care, get adjusted, it was clear as day, Ben, that it felt like a hand came down and said, "You're a chiropractor." And I said, "I accept." And there was no questions asked. It was clear as day. I don't take that for granted. I think, especially in today's world, that is a rarer and rarer thing, that people get connected to their life's purpose in this soul's incarnation and this go around that early and that clearly. So I really am grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I was 17 and I was still kind of a, spoiled punk kid. And so I put it in my pocket and went about being a 17-year-old and a teenager, but I knew that I was going to end up at Life University. And so my journey kind of bobbed and weaved around until finally it was time to get to school. I want to be extremely clear here. I always am for this particular part of the story, is when I share with people, especially with what I'm involved in the profession, whether it's my state organization, being on the board, or whether it's, traveling the world with MLS and training chiropractors and chiropractic students, that my life was altered by a chiropractor who she knew her truth. She shared her message, right? And then she delivered the goods.
Mm-hmm.
That person was not Reggie Gold. It was not Sid Williams. It wasn't Arno. It wasn't any of these people. It was a 10th quarter student who was getting a cup of coffee in a coffee house.
Mm-hmm.
And she stood for me and shared a possibility with me, and it forever changed my life. And I share that it's important, Ben, because I know as a student and a student mind, it's very common for it to be a one day, someday, I'll be where I need to be. I'll be able to help people one day, someday. And I just got to let you know, no, today. And so whoever's listening, wherever you are on this journey, and I don't care if you're flipping pancakes at IHOP, or you're the bank teller, or you're pumping gas down the street, you can absolutely transform someone's life with your presence, your love, and your intent today. So
100%. I'll echo that by saying that a large part of what the Pre-Chiro project is all about is challenging people at an earlier stage in their journey, in their path, to rise up and see the value that they have for others with that understanding and awareness that they have within themselves, that people can get well and stay well from the inside out, that They don't need to go to school and become a doctor to be able to make a difference in someone's life. And I just love hearing a story of a 10th quarter student providing that value. I've had many students come on this podcast now and share how when they went on a mission trip, a service trip, and we were able to provide chiropractic care, even though they had doubts inside of themselves that they were ready, they quickly realized that the value they had within themselves was a lot greater, a lot earlier on than they imagined they would have. So, totally agree. And so that's really interesting. You were 17, you saw a chiropractic student while you're working in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
They basically planted a seed, and eventually the timing was right. Can you talk about that timing in life, and the importance of timing within chiropractic, within the context of chiropractic, also the art, but also healing, and where you were at in life? Why was it time that you were ready to enter?
Well, all right. I'll share that. So, um, uh, my path through high school, well, through all of school was really rocky. Me and school were oil and water, Ben. And sit down in that chair and regurgitate and memorize this stuff. It just never worked for me. For whether it was the authority figures at school, man, my rebellious spirit. I'm the second, child, and there's a lot of archetypal things in there that I think play out very predictably. But when I was in middle school, uh, my mom didn't know what the heck to do with me. I was just a handful. And so, and this is back in the 80s. So what do? You take them to the counselor. And what does the counselor do? Sit you on the leather couch and kind of assess and say, okay, I got it. This kid needs Ritalin. Right. And, this is widespread throughout our culture and our society of let's give these kids drugs because they're not fitting in this mold of this, whatever you want to call it, archaic educational system that is a means to some end, but doesn't look much like real child development, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so even then in middle school, I pretended to take it for 2 years. I would pretend to pop it in and I would throw it down the drain. And I look back on that, I'm like, man, I was already a chiropractor, right? It was that, but I think the rebellious nature of me really helps and is a tremendous asset for a chiropractor because we are contrarian to the core and do have a don't float the mainstream type of attitude. And if it's kind of like my theme lately is you can't have it both ways. As far as trying to be this mainstream and homogenized fit in with the culture in the world, chiropractic is different and it needs to be different because it's a different approach. But I dropped out of high school 2 weeks into my senior year. I just had this like in my my gut and my soul about what I was in for, and God bless my mom. I don't know the foresight that she had or the angel that she is in my life, but she went to the school the next day and dropped me out. And from there, I joined the traveling band of gypsies and I gallivanted around the country with the Grateful Dead and got in the VW bus, and went on that long, strange trip. And that's where a lot of my deep trust in the rhythms of life was developed. I mean, literally, you would set out on a 1,000-mile journey with $12 in your pocket and be absolutely okay with it, right? So venturing into the unknown, not needing that like certainty is very comfortable for me. I'm very comfortable in what most people would say would be totally crazy situations. Well, eventually Jerry died. And so he died in 95. And that was the timing for me, Ben. It was like, okay, well, that chapter has come to an end. It's time to go to school and it's time to go do this chiropractic journey thing now. So that was the timing for me. Not many people know that.
Amazing. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you share the venture into the unknown. And I think that part of what allowed me to discover chiropractic was that I was really curious about what was out there that the rest of the flock was not flying towards. That if I'm in a classroom of kinesiology students and 67 of them out of 69 are going towards physical therapy and medical professions, I wanted to be those other two people that were like questioning, is this really the right way? Like, because I always saw myself different from others. I grew up in a community where I didn't look or sound like most of the people in my community. And so I had this imprinting from an early age that, hey, I'm not like the typical person, and I'm not going to follow the path of everybody else. I don't want that trail that's been blazed, so to speak. So I really like how you describe venturing into the unknown, because I think that's how I ended up in chiropractic as well, and just on the path of discovery. So, all right, you're in chiropractic school now. Your heart is obviously open if you're traveling around with the Grateful Dead, and you've expanded your consciousness. And what is school like? How do you find Arno? How do you get attracted to MLS? And can you just briefly describe what MLS is offering people
Yeah.
in a nutshell?
Yeah. So I want to go back to that 10th quarter student. What she was doing is something called network spinal analysis. And so I thought a deductive reason for a 17-year-old was like, well, every chiropractor does very gentle, precise touches to specific areas of your spine, cueing your brain to check in. When it checks in, it wants to make a change. And so through breath, through movement, through sound, these are all common ways in which people learn and remember how to self-adjust. So, of course, I thought that every chiropractor, that's what they did. That was chiropractic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they were all barefooted, long, flowy hair, flowy dress, hugging, loving, chanting, mantra, music, incense burning people. And I said, I can dig it, man. this is cool. I quickly found out that that was not the case. And so getting into school, it was, here I go. My mom was freaked out when I told her that, Mom, I'm a chiropractor. And she's just like, oh my God, honey, you have always struggled in school as far as just butting heads with teachers and just the stuff. But I'm like, it's a done deal. It doesn't, it's eight. So, okay. So it's 8 years of college. Let's go. And interesting, when I did get into undergrad, after my first quarter of repeating the pattern of butting heads with teachers, of struggling with the grades, not liking it being hard, it being difficult, getting in trouble, doing all this stuff, I had a sit down with myself and I changed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, school's easy. The teachers love me. Everything. And I was on the dean's list from then on out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to flip the switch. And I was following rules that, Donnie Epstein and Joe Dispenza will really break down very poetically now, that I didn't even know I was following then, but it was game on. And but when you get into first quarter, we had books back then, and you get a pile of them thrown upon you. So all these big aspirations of, where's the network club, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to join, and I'm going to do this. You can easily get like, okay, whoa, sink or swim time. And that first quarter is, like the weed out quarter that they'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got into the adjusting arena, and it really freaked me out, and it flipped me out, and highly discouraged me, because what I was being shown in school, and this is no slight to the brilliant and beautiful professors teaching technique at the schools in the construct that they are held in. I want to be clear about that. This is no slight on them, and we can probably talk about the details of why the curriculum in the schools are the way they are, and why there's such a need for a parallel curriculum for some mastery training outside. And unfortunately, that's the case. But what they were showing me on this whole thing of adjusting, it was like, no way, man. I was like, that's not what I know to be true in my heart and soul with the sacred chiropractic adjustment. And so I was really, it really threw me for a loop. And it was like the next day, my roommate, Tracy Wright in Jamaica, said, there's this guy coming to town this weekend doing some mastery training and adjusting. You want? I was like, yes. And that's where I met Arno, and it was game on from there. He showed me how to apply with my own two hands what I knew in my heart and soul to be possible and true through the chiropractic adjustment. And it was such a relief. And I've been at it ever since. Certainly studying with him. Donnie Epstein was one of my original teachers that I studied a lot and studied close with and still do. And Arno was the hub of the wheel that introduced us to the Sue Browns and Jay Comericks and Amy Burks and Val Panachios and Lou Corlettos and all of these amazing people throughout our profession. It was a great time, and I've had just so many amazing mentors and teachers, and now I just love paying it forward to as many people as I can through the MLS programs that I've been blessed and honored to take on as a
Yeah, and just to reflect back, I also dropped out of school, which brought me to a new environment, which shifted my consciousness and totally helped me become somebody who's like, I'm going to create my own reality. I'm not going to keep being the victim of circumstance and blaming the teachers and blaming the classroom structure and rebelling against the system. Because I would just get up and walk out as a freshman in college and say, this is, BS. This is not relevant to what's important to me right now. But absolutely, when you commit and you surrender to this concept of going to school for 8 years to get to do what you love, get to become the person you want to be, when you have that level of clarity, it's all just time passing and you just doing the work, the hard work to jump through the hoops and get through it. When I got to school, I started with somebody who had spent 9 years in a network office. And so I started following him around, and I eventually became the network club president really early on because the people that were heading it were leaving and there was nobody to take it over. I wanted it to keep going. And also that same person introduced me to somebody else that I started with, and he connected me to MLS with Ray Zimmerman, was like, hey, you should check out this guy's seminar this weekend. It was my second week at Life West. And I started with Arno and ended up going to MLS about 14 or 16 times throughout the next 5 to 7 years, just as my check-in point, and have served on staff with him for many years, actually.
Awesome.
And I love the approach of MLS because there's a element to it that's all about listening, and listening can't really be taught on that level. You can just show somebody the way of listening at a deeper level. And I hope that we can get into details about MLS right now. So MLS as an approach, not a technique, an approach of how to approach somebody with honor and connection. Can we speak to the level of presence that chiropractors who are studying and training in this art form tend to focus on? Where's the focus at? If you're studying MLS, if you're practicing this art form, where's your focus, and how do you develop yourself?
Okay, man. Ray is a dear beloved friend of mine. It's good to hear all those connections, and we're gonna have to get you back on staff, Ben. Get you back.
Always been willing to serve. I mean, this thing has given me so much. So
cool. We'll have to do that. Whew. So I heard you. The listening. It can't be taught, and this thing, and why are we able to reproduce so consistently an outcome of pupils, whether they're field docs or whether they're students, to really high level adjusters with the programs? Arno dialed it in and has the roadmap really, really well fine tuned, and we're able to take that and actually continue to evolve that as we go now. And it's natural instincts, right? It is our human nature, right? My mantra this morning: we are here to love. Nothing else will satisfy us. I had a group of chiropractors in here the other day, and they were getting all heady about explaining all this. And I just said, wait a minute. And I went and I grabbed a lay person, and I had one of my little squishy pillows, right? And I said, okay. And I said, come in here. And I said, let's pretend this is a baby. Okay. And I'm going to hand you this baby. Okay. And it's a fussy baby. And I'm going to hand it to you. And she reached out, and you could see her heart soften and her face softened and her listening and her slowness and her movement. And she grabbed the pillow and she pulled it close and started doing this, because I told her it was a fussy basis. This is a lay person. And she started doing this. So I turned to the chiropractor and said, chiropractors, what is she doing? Do you see that? Or I asked her, I said, what are you doing with your hand there? She goes, well, I'm patting the bottom. I said, okay, chiropractors, what is she doing? Right? And they're like, she's stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. I said, that's right. And so then I said, okay, now the baby's crying. It's real fussy. What would you do? And she's like, and she's doing this. And she starts going, shh, shh. I'm like, okay, chiropractors, what is she doing? And they're like, simulating the sound of the womb. So you understand, this is innate. It's inborn in us. We don't have to go through this nerdy scientific breakdown of how we are innately guided our whole lives. So it is programmed in us. We have it. It's been domesticated like hell, but that need, that desire for connection, that desire for listening is in us. It just has to be awoken, and it can be trained. Okay. And that's why we train in silence, so that these other properties, these biological urges and instincts can emerge from us in this busy world that's been so covered up. So that mastery, that artist lies within, and our passion and our gift and our skill is to draw that out of people. And I don't care if you're a student and you threw a dart at the board of careers and it landed, close to coroner, and you were like, oh, coroner, that doesn't sound good, but there's chiropractor. That sounds like could be pretty cool. Let's do that. I don't care if that's how you got this, or if your life was saved by a chiropractor, or your mom's life, and you said, I'm going to devote my life to that thing. It can be taught and it can be trained. And so we see more and more of the students these days. I would say, Ben, that maybe the statistics are over half of them have never received a chiropractic adjustment. Now, this is a big reason for the ease of the therapeutic model to infiltrate. And maybe we'll talk about the logistics, the politics of that, in order for people just to kind of succumb and to be like, yeah, I'm going to treat things, and I'm going to be a therapy for stuff. And so the approach and the of MLS is, first of all, honoring the perfection of life, and not addressing people like they're broken and that they need to be fixed, because man, that's a cross you don't want to bear. It's not your burden. And so I think a huge difference that you'll see with MLS trained chiropractors is we're having a ball, man. It's a life party. And yes, people are coming in, especially this last year, sick, sighing, dying, and crying. And their friend just passed away. Their daughter just overdosed. Their things. So it's not like we're like, grazing over that with rah, rah, have fun. It's all just a party. Not necessarily. But when we don't take it on as the responsibility for me to heal them, that there's something else that does the healing, and I can help to be a catalyst to spark that healing process in them. And that's their journey, and it's theirs alone. And I can be an assistance there. Then I'm free, and I don't carry that burden. But yet I do have that focused intent to bring the presence full on, to be impeccable with the way I do it, to have my rituals to center, ground myself, to bring myself in as a clear vessel. So it's thought that the mainstream approach, forget it, I don't want to do the work, as we call it. I've changed that terminology. Do the self-mastery. It's a new era. It's a new time. And doing the work and this rip your soul out thing, we're moving into more of the spring season of humanity, where it's to be effortless. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm dropping the term inner work to just inner self mastery. That
Mm-hmm.
is the easy road. The waking up early, the doing your prayer, doing your exercise, doing your fitness, looking yourself in the mirror, that is the easy road. It seems like the hard road because of all the discipline you have to cultivate. And man, I won't be impeccable. I won't have all that integrity. I won't train hard. I'll just phone it in and crunch and crack, and it'll still get a good physiology change. I'll pat them on the butt. They'll pay. It'll be good. I don't have to be in a deep, intimate relationship with them. For me, that's the hard road.
Mm-hmm.
That is the really hard road.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that it takes to devote my life to mastery, that's the easy road,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
what it affords me to be, do, have at the end of the day, man, when we lock the door, we're ready to go. It's like, where's the next life magic gonna happen? Let's
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, MLS is the direct path to intuition. I mean, it's like trimming all the fat and not getting caught up in all of the mental, because as a chiropractic student, you're spending a lot of time in the classroom, you're filling your mind with all of this information. And then MLS is like, let's just
Yeah,
drop that and act as though your
that's
mind is completely empty. And how would you approach this human being with this attitude of loving servitude, where you're just trying to serve somebody the best you can in a way that is matching them where they're at. And so, like you said, people are coming in these days in 2021 with a lot going on. And it's not that we drop that, but we meet them where they're at, but we're also not adding to that. And if at anything, we're trying to kind of subtly let that go. Like, let's let that narrative psychology and seeing the connection between the mind and the body. One of the things I love most about MLS is hearing Arno talk about the story of the spine and how every area of our spine is related to an area of our life experience. And uh, MLS is really just about self-expression, and everybody that's at MLS is coming from a completely different place and is also going to express their art differently. But there are some fundamental principles involved, like honoring the laws of nature. Can you speak maybe to some of the laws of nature, the law of polarity, the law of gravity, the law of supply and demand, some of these fundamental principles of chiropractic and how they're expressed through the art with the help of MLS?
absolutely. Uh, pin the law, man. The student journey, and especially someone who does want to really be an extraordinary chiropractor, and that's always the question: do you want to be good,
Hmm.
or do you want to be exceptional? If
Hmm.
your life depended on it, would you go to you for that life-saving chiropractic adjustment? And that's a question that we hold in the forefront when we're doing our training and dropping in deeper. And the the school process with this academic rigor is activating a part of the brain constantly that is, you have to work extra hard now in order to drop in and develop your intuition and your instincts and your listening and all this stuff. It's this left brain, right brain split. We have to sync them up. And, it popped into my head. I know John Martinez, even part of one of his programs is called The Unlearning,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so it's like maybe, especially the further along you are in school, you need to take the oath, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I don't know shit, right? And it'll serve us quite well. If I ask an undergrad who's received chiropractic care versus I ask a 13 or 14th quarter student, hey, what is chiropractic? The undergrad can answer better than the 13th, 14th quarter student because they've been filled with so many different academic contradictions and all this stuff. They're just like confused as can be on what it is. So the honoring of the laws of nature, and that's what chiropractic is. It
Mhm.
is, and that's the philosophy, that's the principle, simply is the laws of nature organized in a methodology and an application by hand we call chiropractic.
Mhm.
It's just the laws of nature that have been organized in a profession with a application, laying on of the hands
Mhm.
to allow for harmony, connection, and balance within those laws of nature,
Mhm.
uh, which equals very often an extraordinary life full of
Mhm.
ease and grace and wonderful feeling and sensation and serendipity and synchronicity in
Mhm.
all these realms that for that those are normal, Ben,
Mhm. Mhm.
where most of the world has succumbed to the horrendous cliches that got passed down from our parents, preachers, and teachers of uh, well, hell, it's just a bitch getting older.
Mhm.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mhm.
And all these cliches of people really think that having 3 headaches a week and of when they get out of bed, they've got to lay on their hardwood floor flat on their back for at least 10 minutes before they can like that. No, sorry, that's not normal. Or popping, over the counter meds or prescription meds every day. Like, well, this is normal. That's normal, right? No, it's
Mhm.
not normal.
Mhm.
Um, but all of those natural laws and the ones you mentioned, they just have to be working experiential things, right, in those fiber of your being. So the principle coming alive in you. So it's no longer conceptual rhetoric,
Mhm.
it becomes into experiential. And so
Mhm.
it's going from educated into knowledge and then can be this living wisdom of where, as Jerry would say, the music plays the band. And that's when that artist comes alive, when you are doing and saying things in that healing space with another human being that you may not have even been taught before. Nobody
Mhm.
told you that. They certainly didn't tell you what you just read and picked up on, and just dropping that one little piece right there, and their eyes well up, and they just had resolution with an emotional trauma that they've been carrying around, which has been playing out physiologically in them as a distortion in the system for 20 years,
Mhm.
just resolved.
Mhm.
And this whole subluxation pattern, this whole tension pattern, just released for the first time. But then let's go a step further. What happens in their life now? Uh, they were able to have a boundary at the office. Maybe they quit. Maybe all of a sudden they just attracted an honoring partner for their life for the first time in
Mhm.
20 years.
Mhm.
Their financial situation just improved,
Mhm.
right? Something that they've been trying to do for 5, 10, 15 years just happened effortlessly. Whether that was to stop binge eating at night or stop cutting themselves, or you follow the
Yep.
ramifications of clearing these subluxations are so huge. It's that slipper on fall on a slippery sidewalk, right? The big
Mhm.
idea from B.J. Palmer.
Mhm.
Um, it's awesome. So
Mhm.
having that intimate knowledge of all these natural laws, it
Mhm.
happens. It's a process.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for eloquently sort of describing chiropractic for any prospective student audience out there. I just want you to see the gift of hearing a message like this before you go to chiropractic school. If you could enter chiropractic school with an intention to not fill your cup as much as you possibly can, but to go inward and really that you spoke about self mastery process. I'm kind of contextualizing innate to be your inner state and just really working on yourself, your inner scientist, your inner thinker, your inner
Mm.
artist, asking deep questions, developing that inner teacher within you, and maybe even an inner entrepreneur. I know that there's some people that feel the business should just be organic, but in today's world, if it comes back to this project, if chiropractic is something that finds you, you don't find it. In a world like this where the loudest voice is getting the most attention, I just think that nobody's considering this path. And I think it's such a beautiful path, the way you describe it, being able to live with an open heart, an extraordinary life, setting your sights on being the best version of yourself by being the best chiropractor you could be. That's like something that's worthy of you dedicating your life to this and at least deeply considering it. It's just not on the radar of 90+% of the students out there. And my thought is if we just inserted chiropractic into a college campus environment, that if students were engaged in pre-chiro and trying to live in alignment with what they believe to be their truth, that we would see a shift in consciousness ripple out that big idea you talk about through college campuses and potentially throughout society, because you've got these educated college students graduating, having been helped by chiropractors in their college campus health center, for lack of better words. And anyway, I'm just seeing things from the inside out. I'm seeing that young people have more inside of them than we give them credit for, that there's a huge potential that's there if they're just challenged, if they're asked of, what would you be doing right now if you could do anything? And let's lean into that. So what's the future hold? What's your vision for your life? Obviously, you've made a great impact already, and you continue to every day serving people and serving students. Um, do you have any intentions that have not yet materialized, or are you just allowing life to kind of play itself out by you just staying connected to you knowing who you are? When you peer into the future, what's it look like for you, or how could it look like for chiropractic if we have a greater continuity and more people have been connected to things like we discussed today?
Yeah. Whew. Well said on your part, and I just want to touch on it that how often I do see a youngster who I'm just like, man, you're a chiropractor, and what's that? And how many amazing, uh, open-hearted, humanitarian lovers of people with great skill and discipline and mastery already in life don't know what they want to do when they grow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or for a vocation and a career. And so I'm really grateful for you, Ben, that, hey, if this thing can actually touch a lot of those people to let them know, hey, this is very fulfilling. This is a ride that has provided me with more than I could have ever dreamed of. And to that 10th quarter student, I am forever grateful. And for all my teachers and mentors along the way, I just have an eternal love and respect and gratitude for. So, I'm a, I'm playing, right. When I was in school, I was the president of the network club. I was the president of the Path of Mastery MLS club. I was the president and founder of the Life Outreach Mission Program, where we would go to ministries around Atlanta and adjust the women and children of these women's shelters. And I was an officer in the On Purpose Club. So, I don't see myself necessarily as that, but it just happens that I'm always kind of plugged in. I love chiropractic, and I will serve chiropractic. That's why I'm involved politically. That's not my arena. It's not my thing. But at some point in school, I had this like epiphany, like, oh my God, I've got to go become a lawyer, because the atrocities that are happening in our nation and within the profession and the just all the organizations that are against chiropractic, like, holy cow, this is a big task. So yeah, you either got to give your time, energy, and money to this profession and your state organizations, and so you got to find a way to do that. I'm about to open a second location next month, so that's exciting, and so that's a lot. I am just focused on growing and perfecting MLS, and developing more and more leaders, MLS, and growing that and expanding that. We mainly serve students, but man, every program we do, we see more and more field docs coming whose lives are transformed. And they're in this like, why didn't I know about this when I was a student? Why didn't I know about this? Because man, the last 10, 15 years in practice, I've been getting my butt handed to me because I didn't know what I remember, the easy road, right? Nobody showed me that road. So this has been very, very hard. I love teaching, and I love watching somebody open up and transform and find their inner truth and their inner artist and their
Mhm.
confidence, and just watch them light up. And I'm
Mhm.
good at it to
Mhm.
get that out of them. And
Mhm.
it does it for me. So um, I'm going to keep on keeping on. I love what I do. I love how we're doing it, and I've got a beautiful family, and I'm committed to, raising my daughter along with my wife Lisa in a chiropractic way of life, which that
Mhm.
just means aligned and in harmony with the natural laws of life,
Mhm.
as best as we can. And she is a shining, just bright, beautiful soul that
Mhm.
I'm so inspired by, and it's not accidental. How it got that way, and watching how somebody can open up and transform within the context of your care in your office. It should be predictable, right?
Mhm.
There are rules to this game. And if we can just continue to devote ourselves to understand it, and guess what? There's no wrong way. There's as many chiropractors as there are, there's that many ways to do it. That's the
Mhm.
beautiful thing. And I can
Mhm.
go anywhere with these two hands and serve and yes, earn a living and support my family. It's just it's absolutely incredible. And man, when people come into the office and they experience just the love, it feels like a hug when you walk into the office.
Mhm.
And right now, all of our offices around the land, well, not all of them, are just sanctuaries of sanity and serenity and peace. And people
Mhm.
feel like, okay, it's going to be okay, even if
Mhm.
it's just for that short time that they're in the office. So
Mhm.
MLS, it's full on, opening up a second location, a second practice for myself, and just loving having a family.
Awesome. Beautiful to connect with you in this conversation. If you're a prospective student out there, check out mlsseminars.com. Dr. Wade Port will post something that you can connect with him down below. He also did an interview recently on Mile High Cairo, which is a organization and an event that happens every year that allowed Dr. Wade to also share more passion and different perspectives. And so, yeah, we're going to keep building context. I just want to say I transferred from Western States to Life West, and I was really blown away by how I could almost miss chiropractic as a pathway, and then I can choose the wrong school and transfer to the right school, and then realize how many students at that other school are never going to hear the messages I heard as a privileged Life West student that got access to MLS from like early on. And I just really had this feeling like, okay, can I connect students at every school and share these resources? And I started a project called Cairo Movement, where we had like 9 countries, 17 schools, all in this same Ning community platform, trying to just share these types of resources amongst each other. But as a student, as you know, time is limited. And if you're trying to do this outward focused project to help the profession as a student, it really is challenging. But I stayed connected to it. 10 years in the making, this conversation is happening. And my thought is if you're a pre Cairo student, no matter what school you go to, at least you can be primed. Like you said, prime the pump. And here we are just trying to basically give you some real clarity and some real truth about what it means to be a chiropractor. So thank you, Dr. Wade. Have a beautiful day. Keep shining the light. Keep doing your thing. If there's any way I could support you, let me know. And we'll keep this MLS discussion going with other facilitators and students who are engaged in that process. And we'll create little compilation videos that develop little common threads in the discussions, because what we want you to know as a prospective student is that there's continuity, that we're not just this isolated discussion, that this is happening around the world. And just the more people are aware, the more that they're going to trust that this is a profession that's amazing and is kept a secret for a reason. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ben, for all you do. It's been enjoyable, man.